Welcome, everyone. We're just going to let people trickle in and then we'll start our webinar in a few minutes. We'll start in one more minute. Just give people time. Here's my cat. I still see people coming in, so I'm just gonna wait. Okay, why don't we get started? So my name is Sagrika. Ignore that Anthony's name is on here. I'm Sagrika. I use she, they pronouns, and I've been an essay specialist with ILUMIN since last year. And I have had experience working with students on their UC PIQs and their personal statements. And I'm excited to share information with you all about the personal statement. Leonore, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Leonore. This is my first year with the women, working as an essay specialist, but I've had similar jobs in the past helping students with application consulting, and I'm excited to be here with all of you today.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. So today our webinar is about crafting your personal statement. And so for our agenda, we have a quick review of College Essays 101, which was our first webinar of the series. And then we're going to talk about what the Common Application Personal Statement is. We'll go through the prompts. We'll talk about what you should write about, give some writing tips, go over a sample essay if we have time, and then share a little bit about ILUMIN.
Yeah, so as a quick overview of college essays, obviously college essays are one of the more important parts of your application because it lets the student speak directly to the admission officer and gives you that more personal component. So they're generally reviewed by staff and can be rated differently at different colleges. There's also different prompts and word lengths, but the main part of the college essay is to help admission officers determine fit. And due to this nature, they should not be written like regular essays you might write for school, but you should really focus on these three keywords below, so passion, personality, and perspective.
Okay, and so now some information about the Common Application and the main personal statement. So the Common Application is an application platform that hosts 900 plus colleges. So for those of us that are in California, the UC system has its own application platform, and basically all other colleges that you're applying to are gonna be through the Common App. And so you could just create an account and search for the college you're thinking about applying to see if it's on the Common App. But as you can see by this list, like very, very many popular colleges are on it, which is why we talk about it, because most people are going to be writing a personal statement and submitting a Common application. So in the Common App, there's one main personal statement. And so it's this central essay that all the colleges you apply to receive. And on the Common App website, you can apply up to 20 colleges, you can apply to up to 20 colleges. And so the minimum word count for the Common App essay is 250 words and the maximum is 650. We advise at least 500 to really get your point across and share as much about yourself as you can. And so it's going to be reviewed alongside your supplemental essays, and those are going to be specific to each college and just the rest of your application. So that includes personal information like demographics and your transcript, letters of recommendation, and your activities. So it's really looked at alongside all these other factors.
Yeah, so now we're going to go through the prompts of the Common application. There are 7 distinct ones, and we're going to talk about what the actual text says and then our translation of what they're really asking in these prompts. Right, so prompt number 1 is about what makes you unique. So the text on the left says some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe the application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So this prompt is asking you to tell a story about yourself that doesn't really answer any of the other prompts that we're going to go through. But if there's a part of your identity or of your history that you think is really important to emphasize, this is a great prompt to use to understand who you are and tell the reader who you are. So the key word here is a story. That's not a particular question, but we just want to talk about your identity and what makes that a unique, making sure there's a beginning, middle, and end to that story. Right. Prompt number 2 is, can you be resilient? So the text says, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? So this prompt is really focusing on mistakes we've made in the past. We're all human, it's okay to mess up, but the story here is really talking about how you've grown from this mistake and what you've learned in the process. So making sure you talk about how you've recovered and how you'll use that in the future. Right. Prompt 3 is, are you a critical thinker? So text is, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? So this one, you can think about any cause, idea, or value that's important to you and think about if you want to stand up for that, what you believe in, and really dive deep into the process of why do you think that, what external factors might have made you think that, and have you examined your beliefs or changed them over time? Kind of paint a picture of your critical thinking skills and how that can help you in college as well. All right, prompt 4, you can see this is a new prompt for this year, is, are you practicing gratitude? So the text is, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? So this is a great prompt if you want to bring awareness to people that have given you opportunities or kind of shaped who you are. You can talk about how they've helped you along your journey. And more importantly, you want to reflect on how you can use that on college as well. So how you'll take advantage of opportunities people give you in college as well.
Okay, so prompt 5 is about how you have grown over time. So the actual prompt is discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. So this prompt is basically asking about a significant thing that happened that led to you transforming in some way. And basically the point of this prompt is to see how you've grown, your personal growth, and if you're able to communicate that and really reflect on how you've grown and matured as a person in high school. And they care about that because they want to know that you are a mature and self-aware person who is capable of growth. Okay, so the next prompt is prompt 6, are you intellectually curious? So this one is describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So this prompt is basically like, I think the prompt itself is pretty straightforward. It's asking about what is a subject that you find really interesting. Most of the time when students write about this, they write about something related to their major or related to the career that they're interested in. However, you don't have to. You just need to write about something that you genuinely find interesting. And in some ways, it might be helpful to write about something different because then you don't end up repeating yourself in supplemental essays that ask why you're interested in your major. So that's actually something you want to be aware of, is that a lot of supplemental essays are going to be asking why do you want to study a specific major, and you want to make sure that you're not repeating the same thing. So if you do choose this prompt, make sure you have enough content that you have something to write for this prompt and something to write for those supplementals. Okay, and then the last prompt is just share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So similar-ish to prompt 1, it's kind of a even more broad, more of a catch-all, and it's just giving the opportunity to share an essay if none of the prompts really fit what you want to talk about. You want to be very careful with this because it can be difficult to write an essay without a prompt because you have to come up with your own main point as opposed to answering a question and that being your main point. Okay, so I started getting into this, but how do you choose a prompt? There is no prompt that is seen as better than another by colleges. So any prompt you choose is equally valued. So the way that you want to go about thinking about it is what prompt best suits you and your story. What do you want to share about yourself? What experiences do you want to share about yourself? And what kind of structure is best fit to share those things? So sometimes the same topic can fit into multiple different prompts. And that's totally fine. You could try different versions to see what feels most fitting. The important thing is your essay's message and story, not which prompt you choose. So you want to choose the prompt that helps enhance your essay's message and story best.
So once you pick a prompt or a few that you think you want to try, the next question is, what should you actually write in your personal statement? And it's important to say that many people might not think of anything right away, and it's totally normal to feel like you have nothing to write about. But the main thing to realize is that everyone has life experiences that can be told in a story format, and so there is something you'll find to write about. The important thing here is to brainstorm ideas, anything that comes to mind, and cast a wide net of things that interest you that could fit these prompts. And then through brainstorming activities, you can help narrow down what would be a good fit to write about from there. And the important thing to realize is that a moment is as important as you make it. So this means that any memory or story can be used for these prompts effectively. It's not the story that matters so much as your reflection and why it's important to you. So you really want to emphasize why the story affects you, why it's important to you, and how that helps you in the future. Anything can be significant if it's meaningful to you.
Oops, sorry. Okay, so what is your purpose really when writing these essays? And when you look at these prompts, it's really obvious that the point of the essay is not to list all your activities and list all your accomplishments. This is really an opportunity to share who you are outside of those things, outside of those achievements. So they want reflection, vulnerability, and authenticity. So you really want to think about moments when you felt most connected to another person. And those moments are usually when you are vulnerable and raw, not when you are talking about one of the coolest things you did and like bragging to someone. You really want to create trust. And that can be difficult because these are just like random strangers reading your essay to evaluate whether or not you're a good candidate. So it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of reflection and writing and rewriting to be able to communicate authentically and vulnerably in an essay. So the three things I think that are very important to keep in mind are to be honest, be personal, and be introspective. That being said, it's also important to honor your own boundaries and only share things that you really do feel comfortable sharing. You do not have to share like something super, super personal or vulnerable if you don't want to.
Yeah, and since the point of this essay is really to be honest and to have that human connection, you can really start by going small with a defining moment that shapes your personality, passion, point of view, values, or ambitions. So one way to think about this is like a flashback in a movie. If you're a superhero movie, you want to think about this as an origin story. So what spark kind of made you who you are? You want to look at that key moment in your life and talk about how that has affected you, in your own way.
Okay, and while you're writing, you're gonna brainstorm and brainstorm some more. We offer a lot of great activities and worksheets to help you brainstorm. But one way to go about it is to just make a list of moments that really stand out when you look back on your life. Make a list of people who have had a big impact on you, moments that you kind of visualize of before this happened and then after this happened, and moments that have taught you life lessons. And after you write these moments, like pick a few that seem interesting to you and just kind of free write about them and see what happens. It's definitely a good idea to try out multiple ideas and also get feedback on what other people think is the best idea to actually move forward with. So it's totally normal to start over multiple times as you realize what actually fits best for your essay. So you really want to make sure these ideas resonate with people.
Yeah, so some example ideas we've helped students with over the past few years on here: getting lost in a foreign country, a camping trip with dad, riding the train to and from school every day, walking around the neighborhood, and getting locked out of the house. So you can see these ideas are kind of maybe boring at first look or don't seem that unique. But again, it's really the reflection behind these that can make your essay strong. So all these topics, which you'll see in the next slide, can have like a good way of writing them and kind of making that unique to you. You just have to reflect on those and what it means to you. So you can see here, the idea is what you make of it. So you want to reflect on why this is important and assign significance to that moment. So you can see with the camping trip with dad, this gave the student confidence to recover from missteps and mistakes, whereas walking around the neighborhood helped the students see beauty in the mundane and in the surroundings. So all these things might seem ordinary and can happen to you every day, but talking about what it means to you and how it helps you as a person is really what we're going for in these types of essays. And then as you reflect on what this story means to you, you also want to emphasize how it will make you who you will be on campus. So reflecting on how it made you from past to present is really good, but make sure to also talk about how it will help you on campus. You can see the example of the person riding the train to school every day and finding community on the train. Can also talk about how on campus they'll become more inclusive and get a community there. And the person who has walked out of the house can talk about gaining confidence in new situations and in moving to college. So showing how it's affected you, but also where you're going to go from there is really important as well.
Okay, and so now for I think our almost one of our final topics, we have how should you write the personal statement. So for some general writing tips, don't choose a prompt right away at the beginning. Start by just telling your story. Write in the first person. So this is like, because this is not an English class essay, this is a personal essay, you're gonna want to use the word I. Use active voice, use your authentic voice. So almost type the essay as how you would speak, but with, good grammar, and engage the reader with creativity and or storytelling. And don't try to copy an essay that you saw. In fact, I would say don't really look at example essays until you have something written. So active voice, for those of you who don't know, is when the noun is actively doing the verb. So for example, instead of saying the money was counted by the cashier, you say the cashier counted the money. Or you could say the squirrel was chased by the dog, or the dog chased the squirrel. So using active voice allows you to be direct. It's more engaging. Passive voice can be like, as it says, passive, and it can come off as boring, or just not as engaging. Also, active voice tends to be more concise, and so then you have more words to say more things. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to our sample essay. So we've broken up an essay into different parts, and we're just kind of going to go over each of them and kind of talk about things we're noticing.
Yeah, so this essay is for prompt number 2, which was the lessons we take from the obstacles we encounter are fundamental to success, and you are counting a time when you face a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from this experience? So we're going to start with the hook. I'm going to read it out loud and then go through what we noticed in this hook. So it says, okay, I guess we won't go with the movie night fundraising idea then, haha. No one laughed. My face flushed red like a beet. Sweat gathered on my forehead, my throat tightened, and I retreated to my feet. So this is a good way to start the essay. I think quotes are often a good way to start it. You don't have to do that, but kind of draws you in, and something that makes people want to read more, especially that second sentence where he says, face flushed red like a beet. Using visual imagery can really help people be more interested too. That's a good way to set up the essay for what's coming next.
Okay. And so now we have some background information. The next part of the essay, I'm gonna just read. That summarizes my first year in student government. In front of 10 other students, the class council, I'd speak out and propose an idea for an event. It would get rejected and I would feel discouraged, only to try it again later. This cycle repeated like clockwork. An onlooker never would have guessed that I was the freshman class president. Looking back, it was the definition of an uncomfortable situation. For starters, my peers all had prior leadership experience, and none of them were my initial supporters. Furthermore, I had never been much of a public speaker. Stepping outside of my comfort zone triggered every social insecurity a high school boy could have: long silences, awkward stares, and judgmental comments. Discomfort was my enemy, and I had to get as far away from it as possible. After I survived my presidency, I wasn't sure if I would participate in anything that would challenge me again. So, like what Leonore said, they do a really good job being descriptive and now like providing the context for that hook, right? So that hook really engages you and pulls you in and makes you curious to want to know what is happening, why is this person so nervous, where are they? And they do a really good job painting the scene of what is going on and also adding reflection as to how they feel. So they talk about feeling insecure and feeling turned off from leadership due to this experience. They also use language that is very natural and sounds like how someone would talk, but it's not too casual to the point where it seems inappropriate. I think one thing that really stands out to me about this essay is that they're talking about a negative situation where they didn't feel comfortable as class president and they didn't feel supported by other students. However, they're not speaking negatively about others in a way that feels disrespectful or inappropriate. So there are ways to talk about a negative situation without it seeming like a pity party or seeming like you're talking badly about other people, because clearly this student was able to do that.
So next, we're going to go over the context of the moment and the moment. However, 2 summers ago, I stumbled upon a YouTube video about parkour, best defined as urban gymnastics. It involves movements like hopping over rails, scaling walls, and landing into rolls. I was astounded as these parkour practitioners displayed complete mastery over their bodies. They moved with speed, precision, and control that I could only dream of. I wondered how I would ever accomplish such feats. I decided to try. After a month of training and watching videos, I attempted my first complex parkour move, a wall up. All I had to do was run quickly and climb atop an 8-foot wall. Easy, right? Nope, I got everything right except for the climbing atop part. My run-ups were clumsy, and I slid off the wall's surface every time. Not to mention, I kept banging my knees and falling backwards onto my hips. It was not pleasant. But I wasn't going to quit. Watching the YouTube masters motivated me to seek their freedom and fluidity, no matter the bruises, cuts, and minor concussions. I developed my leg strength, training to complete 100 squats a day. I studied techniques and mastered where my points of contact should be. And I finally got it. My awkward steps transformed into graceful bounds, and my flipping was replaced by a firm foot plant, followed by an explosive leap. Okay, so this section is really important because it brings the same topic of failing and trying again into a different example. You can see in this paragraph, they talk about parkour and how at first it was hard and they didn't succeed, but then after trying again, they succeeded. So it's the same theme as the last paragraph about government, but showing this example in a different way to show growth, which is really important. And also the descriptive nature is still here. You can see they go over in detail what they actually did to try and get better, not just saying I improved, but saying how they did that in a short but succinct way. And also at the end saying they made it and kind of showing how that's really impressive and how they achieved that finally. So showing and not telling.
That night, as I replayed the moment, my mind wandered to my role as freshman president. Why didn't I succeed? I was filled with doubt and powerless to face my adversity. How could I have risen to the challenge? I realized I was flung into the responsibilities with neither the experience nor the steps to achieve it. That was the difference between then and now. With parkour, I wasn't leaping atop roofs on day one. There was discomfort, but instead of diving into it, I could operate on the border of my doubts and abilities. From training, I had small victories like learning a consistent stride or correct foot placement. This made a feat like climbing a wall possible. By accomplishing goal after goal, no matter how insignificant, I gained the confidence to pursue a larger one. As a president, I should have sought more manageable opportunities initially, such as brainstorming ideas with my peers beforehand or giving an introduction speech. Then I could focus on bigger topics like organizing rallies or the budget. So now they're connecting it back to their experience as freshman president. So here's the reflection on what he could have done better. And he applies his parkour lessons to his experience in student government. So I really like how there's a clear takeaway of if he had done things step by step and in really small incremental pieces, he would have been able to accomplish more than trying to just jump in. So it's just a really cool way to connect two experiences this person had that seems completely unrelated and tie them together with a similar theme and clearly showing how this person learned a lesson from their experience as president. So it was a negative experience that they were able to grow from and show how they're able to bounce back after they make mistakes.
Now, when I face challenges, I know initially have to build confidence with smaller achievements. Whether it's starting the parkour club as first having some well-attended unofficial meetings, or organizing a 2-day backpacking trip before embarking on a 7-day one, I'm grateful that I can face new situations with this perspective in mind. And hopefully I won't turn beet red again anytime soon. Okay. So this conclusion is really good. It's a bit short, but it kind of gives an example of how this overarching theme of taking your time and starting small is really important. You can see they mention like doing a 2-day backpacking trip before a week one. So kind of relating it to other examples of how he'll use them in the future is really important. I think the one thing you could add here, like we mentioned before, is talking about how this can help you in college. So you could mention like taking one class, a few classes instead of like taking 10 classes, or how this might help you in college, learning how to start small and things. So some kind of future component would be good there. But I think overall, this is a good example of making it, taking this example and making it apply to the future as well.
Okay, and now some final tips on structure. Open with an engaging hook like this essay did, having a lot of sensory details. Then provide background and context that lead up to the moment. So the background is more for the hook and the context is more for leading up to a moment. Describe the moment and your realizations, reflect on the moment, and then connect back to the hook and or look into the future. So the moment and your reflection on the moment should be the bulk of your essay, which was the case with this one, right? The moment was the parkour move, and then reflecting on the moment was them reflecting on how taking small steps led to the accomplishment and how that led them to think more about their experience as class president and how they could have done better. That was still kind of reflecting on that moment. And then some editing tips. So once you have all your content, then choose a prompt. And 2/3 of your essay should be the story, 1/3 should be reflection. Remember why you're writing this essay and what you're trying to tell the reader. Read out loud to check for flow and that it sounds like your voice. Share your work with other people and proofread. And don't use like Grammarly or something. I mean, those are great, but also proofread like yourself to make sure that grammar and spelling are all good. Okay, So basically what ILUMIN does is we offer essay consulting with specialists such as myself and Leonore. So you'll get one-on-one coaching, and you'll get access to an essay boot camp with a bunch of different resources. And like you saw here, us going through an essay piece by piece and all the different factors, we would also provide that, whether it be the brainstorming stage or the editing stage. We provide support with any stage. So you can sign up directly on the website and get started whenever you're ready. And we actually have a special promo going on this upcoming week. If you use this code, then you get 20% off for whatever package that you choose. So if you just go to this website or email this email that you're interested and use this code, then you could get 20% off for a essay editing package. And then one other thing that I wanted to share about is that not the next webinar, but the webinar after that, which will be on September 6th, we'll be doing live essay edits of submitted essays. So you all will submit essays and we will edit them on Zoom. We will not be putting up any identifying information, but your work will be edited live for other people to see. I'm going to link the Google form in the chat for the Google form to fill out to submit your essay to have a chance for it to be edited live. So just give me 1 second to find that Google form. Okay. There we go. Okay, so there's that Google form. And if you submit an essay, you'll have a chance for it to be edited live on September, I believe September 7th, whichever day is that, the Tuesday of that week, Tuesday evening. But yeah, so we're just gonna spend the last 20 minutes doing Q&A. I see that we do already have a few questions. So the first one is there a separate Common App for UC, or do we write one Common App and share that with all? So there is a separate application platform for UCs, and there are separate essays that go along with that. So yeah, there's gonna be 2 different application platforms for all the UCs and for other colleges. So that's that. And then this other one, Leonore, I don't know if you want to take this next question.
Yeah, so it says, in what ways can we demonstrate personal growth academically, socially, etc.? Is it possible to explicitly state how we grew? So this is a good question. I think that you can definitely show it in both ways, and kind of like that example essay we did, how they had one section about student government and then they had parkour. You could talk about personal growth academically and socially if that applies to you situation. I think you could focus on one also depending on what your situation is, but there's definitely ways to add both and kind of have the theme be growth if you want to do like that. And in terms of the second question, I think you can be explicit in how you state it. Like you want to be creative and be visual and showing, not telling, but you can say like, this is what I learned from my situation. It doesn't have to be subtle. You want it to be kind of the emphasis of like how you grew. So you can say it more explicitly if you need to say it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just to add, as long as you are having evidence to back up that this is how you grew, you can definitely say it explicitly. And this other question, do you use first person for pretty much all college essays? Yes, you do use first person for pretty much all of them. And you do not have to buy a package for the live essay edit session. It's going to be another webinar like this one. So if you got this one through email or however you access this one, you will also be able to access the next one in the same way. And you are definitely allowed to submit an essay even if you haven't bought a package. Have you ever suggested that a student come up with a different topic as the first topic may not be significant enough to talk about? Yes. We do go over the topics that students choose and kind of evaluate whether they are appropriate, meaningful, and unique enough for the student to write an effective essay on. And so if we don't feel like that's the case, we feel like it's an essay that many people write and they don't really have a unique perspective on it, then we will ask them to choose a different topic or ask them to look at that same experience from a different angle. Leonore, do you have anything to add for that one?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like you said before, any topic can be important and can be meaningful. So I think it's not necessarily a whole different topic you need to pick, but just going about it a different way. So like a different angle and making it more unique or more meaningful, but it's usually not the topic itself that's bad. It's just kind of like tackling it a different way, and we can help you figure out the best way to write about it.
And yes, a recording will be sent out via email at the end of this. So the amount of essays you need to write really depends on the school. Some colleges have 3 supplemental essays, and like even the word count for those supplemental essays differ. So it could be, another 400 word essay, or sometimes it's just a short answer 200 word essay. But it really just depends on the school. A lot of times if you Google the school and supplementals, you're able to find last year's application and what they asked. And also on the Common App, when you add in a school, you could go to that individual application and see how many supplemental questions they have. So it really just depends. It could be like, I would say generally it's like 1 to 3 supplementals, but it really varies. So we'll just be sending out the recording and that will have the presentation on it. So you'll be able to access the presentation that way. Leonore, do you want to answer this last one?
Yeah, for the UCs, I think there are 7 or 8 prompts and you pick 4 of them, I think it is. And they're all about 350 words, so a bit shorter than the Common App is. But you'd pick several of the prompts depending on what works best for you and submit all of those to the college. So a bit different than the personal statement, but a similar aspect of like picking a few prompts that are similar in nature. And you just submit those instead of the one personal statement.
Yeah, so it's 4 essays, 350 words. And it's okay if the topic overlaps with what you write about in the Common App, because different colleges are getting those essays, so you can write about the same topic. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to type in the Q&A. Questions about what ILUMIN does, questions about the Common App. good question here. For the Common App, are there prompts that you suggest to stay away from, like our UC webinar? There are no prompts that we really suggest staying away from. We just suggest using caution if you are using prompt 7, which is the basically write anything. Because like I said, you can easily kind of not have a main point if you're not answering the prompt. And so that lack of structure can be difficult for a lot of students and can hinder the quality of an essay. So that's like the only thing that we would be wary about, but also you could still make it work if truly none of the other prompts are fitting and you have a really great essay that would fit with prompt 7, then you can definitely do that. Leonor, you could take this question.
Yeah, so this question is a good idea to keep the essay simple and clear or use big words. I think overall, like we mentioned, you want to be kind of not casual, but how you would usually talk. So it should seem natural. You shouldn't have to like look up words you don't know or words that you don't usually use. I think that you want to be like a bit more casual than everyday language. You want to make it like slow and be written in a format that works for an essay, but it should overall be pretty like casual and conversational, especially with the storytelling piece, just how you would say it out loud, but in an essay format. So not having to use any big words really that you wouldn't know or don't usually use.
You could take this next one too, if you would like.
Yeah, so this one says, does the process of writing essays get easier as you write more? I definitely think the more you practice, you can kind of get into the habit, especially for these personal essays with the structure of like background and then moment and reflection. And the more you reflect on different parts of your life, that will come easier for other topics. And you can kind of see overlap between like one essay and when you write about a different topic. So I definitely think it can get easier, and the more you brainstorm, that's gonna help as well.
Yeah, and generally with these essays, the hardest part is just getting words on the paper. And once you have that first draft, editing is a lot smoother and less difficult than getting words on the paper initially. So because of that, it definitely gets easier the more and more you write and put things on the paper. So this next question, how many hours do you typically spend with a student on the essay, taking into consideration all the rounds of edits? So we generally recommend, if you want help with your UC PIQs, those 4 essays, and your Common App, a 10-hour package would cover, from beginning to end for all of those essays. So that could be like 10 hours starting now and spread until November when the UC PIQs are due, or even spread until January when the Common App is due for some colleges. So that's kind of like the hours that we would recommend, 10 hours for those 5 essays. I believe the smallest package you could get is 5 hours. I would recommend emailing essays at ILUMIN Education if you are having a lot of questions about that, because as specialists we don't know the details about the packages, but for me personally, like for example, one round of edits would, like if a student sent me an essay and then I sent it back to them, would take 15 to 30 minutes. So you could also look at it that way, and like it depends, right? If we're starting from the brainstorming stage and going from brainstorming all the way to final draft, then that's going to take more hours than someone who comes in with a second draft and wants to get to a final draft. Any other questions? Let's see. Now is a good time to start working on your essays. But you want to brainstorm and think of a solid topic and kind of talk through that topic with someone, and kind of after getting that approved, do an outline and then start drafting. Yes, as in summer before your senior year, because your apps are going to be due anywhere from end of October to January of your senior year. So if you start now, then you won't have as much to juggle with school in the fall. I think we would want people who are submitting essays for the live college essay review to be seniors, so people who are submitting their application in this cycle. But definitely like in the future, when you end up applying, you'd be able to submit an essay. Any other questions? And yeah, if you have questions about the package or getting hours to get essay help and essay support, you can email essays@illumineducation.com. And then the code is START NOW for 20% off if you purchase within the next week. Okay, awesome. Okay, we'll wait one more minute if anyone has any questions, and then we can call it a little bit early. Last call. Okay. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us on this Sunday morning. I hope that information was helpful. And good luck with your college essays, and have a great rest of your weekend.